Paying full Disney World prices for things you don't have to, hitting up the parks during their most crowded times, and going to the wrong bathroom. These are the things you should avoid at all costs in Disney World, and a bunch of other ones coming straight from the DFB team's personal list of less than magical experiences. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. Now for this video, I reached out to the DFB team and asked, hey, based on your personal experience, what's something you'd tell our viewers to absolutely 1000% without a doubt avoid on their next Disney World trip? And boy, did the DFB squad come in clutch, because we got reporters in the parks every single day. Our whole team's got a solid idea of what works and what backfires. So get comfy and pour yourself a piping hot cup of tea or whatever you want while I pour some piping hot tea of DFB confessions. Okay, now this has happened to several members of the DFB team, myself included. Picture this. You're keeping an eye on the Disney World special offers, just waiting for the moment that a good discount pops up that'll help you save money on your Disney World hotel stay. But time passes and you're coming up dry day after day. You really need to go ahead and snag that room soon because the clock is ticking, getting closer and closer to your vacation date. So you finally say, forget this, book the room you've been eyeballing because all this waiting around is for the birds. And wouldn't you know, the very next day, Disney finally drops a hotel discount that would have been perfect for you. A watched pot never boils, my friends. Ain't that just the way? So here's the good news. Even if you book a hotel at full price, it doesn't necessarily mean you still have to pay full price for it when a discount like this suddenly decides to drop in your lap. And there are a few different ways for you to pull this off. The first way is by taking matters into your own hands through your My Disney Experience account. You can try to apply a special offer to your vacation by straight up rebooking your trip. Just go to the My Plans, Reservations and Tickets section and find the Change Modify Reservation option. Now this usually works best on desktop. So after selecting the exact date and times of your vacation, when you go to select your room, check the top of the page. You should find toggle options like room only or special offers pop up right above the room types. When you choose the special offers toggle, the website will let you know if there are still rooms available for booking all those promotional price points. And if there are, choose the room and follow those prompts to get your trip rebooked with the new promotion applied. The second way is to call a cast member who will help apply the discount for you. Sometimes Disney won't give you the option to change or modify your reservation on your own and will instead give you a number to call. If there's some sort of special circumstance attached to your booking, that'll require an extra helping hand to pull it off. Now the third way, don't stress about it whatsoever and let a reliable travel agent do the rebooking and discount applying for you. We always recommend Small World Vacations, as you know, and they can help you plan your entire trip and make sure that you have the best deal. Like they can go in and kind of do the back and forth price comparisons to make sure that the discount that is applied is the best one for you. I'll add the Small World Vacations link down in the description so you can check them out. All right, next, avoid getting thrown by Disney's hotel gift shop prices. Sometimes it really is unavoidable and you gotta splurge on the overpriced necessities at the Disney hotel gift shops. For example, one of our writers planned out a weekend mother-son trip to Disney World not too long ago, so she booked a room for the two of them over at Pop Century Resort and scheduled out some time for a little pool day so we could splash around in the shallow end of the hippy-dippy pool. But when it came time for their fun-filled pool day, she realized she'd forgotten to pack any swim diapers for him, and since it was just her and her kid, it's kind of hard to drop everything and get swim diapers for cheaper outside the Disney bubble, especially since her little one was already so excited about swimming right then and there. If she would have known that she forgot the swim diapers sooner, she could have totally ordered some, along with any other necessities she might have needed from one of those grocery delivery apps like Kroger Delivery. But again, those deliveries still take time to get to you and could take up to an hour or more to arrive at your hotel lobby, so sometimes the quickest and easiest solution is to buy swim diapers at the gift shop. But get this, swim diapers at the Disney gift shops currently cost around $14 for a pack of 10, while the swim diapers at Target cost about $10 for double the amount. Yeah, Disney definitely takes advantage of the whole convenience factor that they've got going on here, and while it's easy enough for me to say just double check your packing list before you leave to make sure you've got everything before you go, I'd be the world's biggest hypocrite. Remember when I literally forgot to pack shirts for my kid? Yeah, he had plenty of shorts, he had underpants, he had socks, he had bathing suit, but no shirts. Literally not a single shirt. So yeah, while it's good to double or triple or even quadruple check your suitcase to make sure you've got everything you need packed and ready to go, I'd also say it's not a bad idea to budget some emergency cash, like maybe $50 to $100 just in case you do forget something and need to purchase it at your Disney hotel gift shop at the last second. Now, because we're human and sometimes we accidentally let things slip through the cracks when we're already trying to juggle a billion and one other things before those big trips, it's okay. Take a deep breath, give yourself some grace. As long as you don't pull a Home Alone and leave your kid upstairs in the attic before your flight, I'd say you're doing a pretty good job. Oh, and for the record, a few non-Disney owned hotels that are still located on Disney property, like the Swan and Dolphin and the Holiday Inn Orlando over at Disney Springs, have these very, very cool CVS Pharma Box vending machines where you can purchase lots of different last-minute essentials, like sunscreen and allergy relief and Band-Aids and razors and swim diapers. And not only are these vending machines super convenient, but the prices are very reasonable. They're less inflated price points than what the Disney hotel gift shops are going to offer up. So that's definitely something to keep in mind if you're staying at one of these hotels or if you happen to be close by to one when you are in the Disney area. Because like if you're at a Epcot resort or if you're at Epcot or Hollywood Studios, you can literally walk over to the Swan and Dolphin, go to the CVS vending machine and get what you need way cheaper. Now, this is another point that several of us on the team are more than familiar with, and that's because you're going to find several of our DFB reporters in the thick of it during the first day of any Epcot festival. With each new fest, our reporters dive into the trenches so they can let everyone know ASAP what's worth buying and what's worth saving for, and what drinks you might want to skip and what entertainment you're not going to want to miss. But here's the thing. Without fail, each of Epcot's festivals always seem to be at their busiest during these 3 times. First, opening day, when Disney fans from all over are wanting to try those new and returning festival items, so they're so excited to see them, just like us. And also, every single blogger and YouTuber is there too. Every influencer on Instagram, everybody's there on day 1. So you're going to be fighting a lot of people talking at their phones. Number 2, opening weekend, when the locals get the chance to check out the new festival offerings. And number 3, on the final day of the fest, when folks want to get in those last few bites of their favorite festival items before they disappear until next year. Or maybe even for good if Epcot decides not to bring them back. Now, if you got some flexibility with your vacation schedule and you want to plan your trip during a time when the Epcot Festival food booths and shows won't be nearly as packed, I'd recommend checking out the fest's smack dab in the middle of things. I'm talking middle of the week when locals are still at work, and middle of the season when the initial hype has died down but people aren't yet super sad to see the festival go away. Now, this one was hard for some of us on the team to admit, but once one of our editors piped up about it, several other DFB team members chimed in as well. Sure, Disney World's rides might be more on the family-friendly side of things than the other theme parks you might have visited, but that doesn't mean some of these rides can't still make you sick as a dog. I'm not telling you that you need to completely avoid Disney's more intense attractions if you still want to experience them. Just use your best judgment and make sure you're prepared if you do decide to ride them, regardless of any ride sensitivities you might have. For instance, on a roller coaster, try sitting toward the front of the coaster instead of the back for a smoother ride through. You can always request a row with the cast member at the front of the ride and they'll do their best to accommodate if they can. Now, if you know you got a day full of rides ahead of you, avoid eating super heavy foods, spicy foods that you're just not sure how they're going to settle in the pit of your stomach when it's all said and done. Instead, turn toward foods that'll fill you up that you know your stomach will agree with. I know that all of those astronauts recommend that you have a banana before you ride Mission Space, but it probably makes sense to lean toward things with a little less sugar, a good amount of protein, and plenty of water. Ginger candies can also work wonders after a ride if your stomach needs help settling down. Also, don't forget to bring your trusted nausea preventatives like non-drowsy Dramamine, C-bands, motion sickness patches, etc. Same goes with being beat up post-roller coaster ride. It's good to have those over-the-counter pain relievers on hand. Or if you forget to bring some, you can always swing by the park's first aid center to pick up a free sample size over-the-counter medication. I always get vicious headaches when I'm in Disney World. Part of that is because I probably don't hydrate enough, so I've got dehydration headaches. Part of it's because I'm in the sun more than I usually am. Usually I'm a vampire. I'm just sitting in my office all day. And it's also because maybe I'm drinking more than I would normally. Not water, alcohol. And sometimes it's also because, I ride these coasters or I ride these rides and they throw you around a little bit. So I will always find myself getting headaches more in Disney World than I get when I'm at home. So be prepared for that. And believe it or not, my friend Heather, who you might follow on Instagram, she's Dining in Disney on Instagram. She introduced me to this kind of muscle rub. I guess it's like Icy Hot. But they have like Aleve and Advil branded creams now that you you put on your sore muscles and they sort of feel like burning you and freezing you at the same time. Thus, I think probably the name how Icy Hot got its name. But listen, I've never tried these before and they are so weird and so kind of cool. I loved them. So I ended up just kind of buying a bunch of that stuff, and I would like to bring it with me to Disney World because I'm always using muscles that I'm not normally using. Again, I'm just sitting in my office most of the days. So when I'm in Disney World, I'm actually moving a lot more than normal. So those are fun to use when you get back to the hotel at night. And one last piece of advice on this point. If you want to ride Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic Rewind, and Mission Space and Epcot, maybe like pace those out instead of riding them back to back. Now, I know they're only steps away from each other. There's a reason the team and I have deemed this dynamic ride duo as Barf Alley. And those are the stories I will spare you from. Okay, speaking of TMI, it's time to talk about bathrooms. Just kidding. I'm not going to go into weird Disney bathroom stories with y'all. I could, but we're not going to do that today. That's a whole different situation. But I do want to say, from personal experience, our team doesn't just know the best Disney bathrooms on property, but they also know the worst ones you're going to want to avoid if you can. So let's get into it, starting with Tomorrowland and Magic Kingdom. Perhaps the most popular restrooms over here are the ones by Star Traders, but that's exactly why you should avoid them. These bathrooms are out in the open. They're usually really busy and not always the cleanest. Instead, head over near Space Mountain where there's that other set of restrooms behind the Rocket Tower Plaza stage. These have quite a few stalls and are usually a lot calmer and cleaner. Storybook Circus has so many things going for it. Cute theming, lots of activities for kids, great character meets, smell-a-fence, but the one thing you should avoid there, the bathrooms. In our experience, the bathroom floors inside Storybook Circus are really wet, but don't let your mind run away with you. There's a splash pad for kids right outside these bathrooms, so they're constantly being tramped through by slightly damp or completely soaked little ones. Instead, there's a great set of quiet, albeit small restrooms behind Gaston's Tavern in New Fantasyland, which are usually less of a slip and fall hazard. Plus, you can knock on the tiny little Fantasyland room door while you're at it, because why not? Moving on to Epcot, I'd encourage you to avoid, again, if possible, the restrooms at the front of the park by Spaceship Earth, because both the restrooms to the left and right always seem to be very busy. Yet there are much better options and less busy options nearby. If you're heading toward World Discovery, stop inside Connections Eatery, where the restrooms are much newer and have some of the nicest changing tables in Disney World if you need a place to change your kiddo. And they still have plenty of stalls too. As long as you're not in here during the meal rush, they're typically not too crowded. And if you're heading toward World Nature, there are some quiet, hidden bathrooms in the Seas Pavilion as well. Not many people visit them because they're on the back of the first floor, but they're still a great place to take a pit stop away from the masses. And while you might think it's weird that I'm talking about taking a pit stop in the bathrooms, there have been times in Disney World where I have been running so frantic that I just literally need to just sit in the bathroom in the AC for like 15 minutes just to get my composure back. This has happened to me. So don't feel bad if that happens to you. Sometimes you just need to be someplace that's quiet and a little more relaxing and have AC. Now, let's check out Hollywood Studios. Perhaps the worst restroom offender on today's list are the restrooms you'll encounter right after you enter the park on Hollywood Boulevard. Since they're the first set you're going to spy, they're typically incredibly crowded and not usually very clean. On top of that, characters will sometimes appear on the balcony above these restrooms, so they're occasionally blocked by guests wanting to get photos and videos. Just a little too chaotic for us to rely on. Thankfully, there are some much better restrooms before you enter the park. Outside of security, there's a set of bathrooms to the left of the entrance, and they're usually very quiet with plenty of stalls inside. These will get busy at the end of the night when everybody's trooping past them to get to the tram to go back to their cars, but during the day, nobody's in here. Another set of bathrooms we could live without in Hollywood Studios, the ones in the middle of Sunset Boulevard, about halfway down the street. You know the ones I'm talking about. For some unknown reason, they are one of the hottest and stickiest places in all of Disney World, and they're pretty much always busy. Save yourself some sweat and use one of the other 3 bathrooms on Sunset Boulevard. There are some next to Tower of Terror, some by Rock and Roller Coaster, and our personal favorites are the relatively unknown ones by the recently closed Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy, which will be replaced by an up-and-coming villains show, but not till next summer. Finally, we come to Animal Kingdom, where we don't have too many complaints about the bathrooms, to be honest, but the one next to Chester and Hester's Dinosaur Treasures in Dinoland USA is a lot like the one on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood Studios. It's just unusually hot and sticky. Instead of using those while you're soaking up your last moments inside Dinoland before it's rethemed, make your way over to Restaurantosaurus. The dining location's restroom has an outside entrance as well, and because it's inside a restaurant, it's typically much cleaner and has better AC. And now it's time for AJ's fun bathroom fact of the day. Did you know that Animal Kingdom is the only park that has doors on all their bathroom entrances? This is in case an animal escapes into the park so guests can barricade themselves inside the bathrooms for safety. I love this fun fact. I know I've told it to you before. I'll tell it to you again. I think this is so great, and it's definitely a way to make your family think that you're really smart when you're in Animal Kingdom. So you know what's worse than being hungry in Disney World? Being hungry while every single quick service has a giant line and literally no seating available because it's all packed with other guests. And that's when the hangry side of AJ starts to come out and scare my family. Yep, mobile ordering your food from quick services ahead of time can be a great way to help you bypass the bulk of those standby quick service lines. But that still won't help you out when you're standing around with your tray full of food, struggling to find a place to sit. Typically, we find that the busiest dining times in Disney tend to be around 8 to 9 a.m., noon to 1:30, and 6 to 7 p.m. Since these are the times that most people are used to eating, that's what you're going to find when they're just totally packed out. So what times are better to hit up Disney's quick services for potentially lighter crowds with more seating? I recommend maybe planning for brunch instead of breakfast between 10:30 and 11, or snagging a late lunch between 2 and 4. As for dinner, late dinners typically have fewer crowds between 8 and 9 p.m. So you're going to have to go all like European, and eat late. But if you know those adjusted dining times are really going to throw off your crew, make sure you got plenty of snacks packed in your park bag to munch on in the meantime to help keep the hangries away. All right, next thing you should avoid at all costs. And I know that this is going to be a controversial one, so hear me out. Unless you really know Disney World like the back of your hand, shout out to all you Orlando locals out there and all the people that go to the parks all the time, going to the theme parks for your first trip or even your second or third with zero game plan can be a disaster waiting to happen. Unless you're one of those very free spirit people and you're happier and more comfortable if you don't have a plan, that's cool. But if you're someone like me who wants to get their money's worth and is very concerned about that, then having a game plan makes the most sense for visiting Disney World. And of course, I would say that that's like literally why I exist right now. Like that's why we have this whole channel, is because I'm such a planner. So this specific example comes from another one of our writers who was just having a seemingly casual conversation during their last hair appointment. Our writer's hairdresser mentioned in passing that she was super excited because that upcoming week she'd be taking off on a family vacation to Disney World. So she asked our writer if she had any tips she wanted to share. Now our writer said, well, have you studied up on the virtual queue system? And her hairdresser said, I think I've heard of it before. Yeah. So our writer said, are you getting any lightning lanes? And her hairdresser asked back, you mean fast passes? And our writer said, are you planning on going to Epcot's Food and Wine Festival? And her hairdresser says, nah, I don't think I want to pay extra for that event. In conclusion, our writer got a really cute haircut and she was able to give her hairdresser some great pointers before that big family trip of hers. But the reason why that little interchange is so scary to us who sit here planning Disney World trips every day is there is no fast pass anymore. You don't have to pay extra to go to the Food and Wine Festival. And there's no way that lady had heard about virtual queues and had no idea how to actually use that system, and probably didn't realize there would be rides she would not be able to ride if she didn't use it. So more people than you realize treat Disney World vacations like going to the state fair. They buy the tickets and the hotels and they just show up and figure that the rest will naturally fall into place. And I get that. I mean, I'd probably end up doing something very similar on like a camping trip or going to Dollywood or something. Well, I know a little bit better than that if I'm going to Dollywood. I would plan, but I probably wouldn't plan at the level that I do for Disney World. And I'll be honest, what you get out of your Disney World trip is directly correlated to what you put into it. Yes, I mean money, but I also mean planning and making sure that you're going to use your time in a way that you're going to really enjoy. So without that extra research or guidance put forth toward your Disney World trip, a trip you're probably spending thousands of dollars on, you might miss out on some major sections of the parks just because you weren't aware of how important they were or how they even work. And again, that's why we're here and that's why you're here. So props, because you're here, you're planning, you're cramming, you're figuring out what you need to know to get your money's worth on this trip. Now, along with our YouTube videos and our social sites and our website, we've also got free DFB planning worksheets that'll help you organize those crucial parts of your upcoming Disney World vacation, from timelines to budgeting to printable planners to packing lists and a lot more. Scan the QR code you see on the screen or head over to disneyfoodblog.com/disneyplans and we will send those to you. They are completely free. You don't have to pay a single thing for them, and we'll get it over to you and you'll be even more ahead of the game. Okay, this next one is, Again, not something you can always control, but it is something to think about. Even though we here at DFB have a pretty decent heat tolerance, the few times we've been thwarted by heat waves when they happen to Disney World in the summer is when we found ourselves completely desperate for AC and water, maybe even a rainstorm. This is when I find myself sitting in bathrooms for 15 minutes just because I can't tolerate being outside anymore. So Disney World in the summer is no joke. I know a lot of folks tend to prioritize that time because it's easier for families to travel when the kids are out of school, but you gotta be careful on this one. Heat exhaustion and dehydration are very real. So if you're planning on going during the summer next year or in the years to come, you've gotta make sure you factor in time in your daily park itinerary to step in that AC, sit down for a bit, reapply the sunscreen, and drink your water. Refill those water bottles or grab a cup of free water at the quick services. You can even spend money on Dasani water bottles if you really want to. Whatever gets you to drink water and stay hydrated is the method you need to go with. It's totally okay. We're not going to judge. I do it too. Now, during past trips to Disney World in the summer, I've picked up a couple of free cups of water thinking I was good and healthy for doing so. And then back-to-back rides, character meet and greets, and a show or two later, I found myself with the worst headache ever, only to realize it had been hours since I drank any water. That's why it's not a bad idea to set reminders for yourself on your phone to take a break out of the heat and drink your water. Looking for a cooler time of the year to visit Disney World? Well, if you can, that's a good idea because it's usually also a cheaper time of year to visit Disney World. In October, you can expect temperatures to sit between a high of 85 and a low of 68. This time of year is when Orlando is finally dipping into cooler temperatures. Not cold by any means, but cooler. Meanwhile, November's average high temperature sits around 78 and the average low is 60. This is like the sweet spot. If comfortable to cool temperatures and no rain is your thing, December might be the best time of year for you. Average highs of 75, average lows of 55. Love that sweatshirt weather. January is probably one of the coolest temp-wise times of year to go. Average high is 72, average low is 51. These are all Fahrenheit, by the way. But even though it isn't hot, you've still got to make sure you're staying hydrated since walking around the parks all day long is a mega workout and you'll need to keep up those electrolytes. In February, the average high is 75 and the average low is 54, so we're creeping up there. And the mornings are going to start off pretty chilly before you warm up. Now, if you're venturing into the parks in March, you'll more than likely be greeted by pleasant, mild weather. March is often in the mid to upper 60s with the average high being 79. There will be some days that are heating up though. April's a little warmer, and so on and so forth. Once you get into the end of April, beginning of May, it's going to start to be uncomfortable again. Now, this is from my personal stash of weird fears. I am not a fan of sudden loud noises. I've never been a fan of fireworks or balloons popping, all that kind of stuff. And when it comes to sudden loud noises, I just can't do it. When Halloween Horror Nights come around, I watch my all ears friends do all their coverage on YouTube so I can live vicariously knowing good and well that if I were in the thick of it, I would faint. It would not go well. But I know I'm not the only person out there like that. So for all my other super sensor friends and kids, I want you to know there are always 2 rides in Disney World that I've been known to cover my ears during because they feature sudden loud sounds. The first is Journey into Imagination with Figment in Epcot. And before you make fun of me, I'm not saying I cover my ears during the whole ride, but just at the very end, right after Figment's upside down blacklight funhouse area. When Nigel Channing and Figment pop up on the TV screens, my hands go to my ears because I know Figment's about to shout, "Imagination is a blast!" followed by that sudden blast of air and explosion sound, leading to the reveal of the grand finale, which is trippy, but after that initial blast, we're in the clear for the rest of the ride. Now, I'd also argue there are parts of Remy's Ratatouille adventure that can hit you with a sudden loud sound when Chef Skinner's chasing you down that might also be jarring for some. This really doesn't bother me as much though, but it could be slightly upsetting for younger kids who'd rather not have a mean old chef reaching out to suddenly snatch them up 4D style. Now, the second ride I always cover my ears during all the way through is Dinosaur. Yep, there are a couple of sudden loud sounds featured during this ride, but honestly, the ride is just loud in general. This is the same thing with Indiana Jones rides in like Tokyo and Disneyland. But fun fact, it actually used to be way worse back in the day. Now we got a video highlighting all the rides Disney had to change and why, where we go in depth with all the changes Dinosaur has experienced since first opening in Animal Kingdom. But I won't get into all that right now. You can watch that video yourself later on. But what I will say is that Disney ended up having to pull back back on a lot of the ride's original sounds, like the roars and the footsteps on the dinos, so they didn't seem as close and threatening to younger guests. But even still, this is probably the loudest ride in Disney World. I'm not saying I don't like this ride. I do. I don't ride it very much because it scares me. But it's loud, and I do oftentimes find myself just covering my ears the whole time. Now, am I saying Figment and Dinosaur are just the most terrifying experiences ever? No, I still have fun, and your kids probably will too, except for Dinosaur. I hate Dinosaur. But if you or the kids in your group have any sort of sound sensitivities, it might not be a bad idea to pack some earbuds or headphones for some of those Disney rides that might up the sound bar just a little too high for your liking. You can even bring some earplugs. Those are real easy to just pop in. Nobody knows you've got them in. And then, you have a much better experience. Now that we've avoided all that drama, you can start focusing on the things you don't want to avoid at Disney World, which is all the super fun stuff. So keep checking back here with us as we continue to put out these videos to help you pull off the best trip ever. And don't forget to pick up those free DFB planning worksheets over at disneyfoodblog.com/DisneyPlans. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.